everyone. My name is Teacher Des, and today I am talking all about Level 1 pacing. Level 1 classes run a little differently than the other levels in that there are more slides with less content, meaning that 1 minute per slide rule won't get you through the 25 minutes on time. So I'm going to talk about how I pace out my Level 1 lessons using the different sections that make up a Level 1 class. I'll talk about how many minutes I spend on each section, the minute marker I try to end each section by, as well as some extension ideas in case you find that you're running a little bit ahead of schedule. Because there is nothing worse than finishing the slides and seeing that you still have 5 minutes left on the clock. Worst feeling ever. So let's start with the introductions. So for introductions, I try to average about a minute to a minute and a half on different introduction questions depending on which unit the child is on. Units 1 and 2, they pretty much just know, what's your name? How old are you? Starting in Unit 3, they learn, are you a boy? Are you a girl? And then in Unit 5, they learn, how are you? So I switch between different introduction questions depending on what the student has learned so far. And I usually try to end it around the minute and a half mark. The next slide is always Meg and Mike in blank. And I don't skip this slide. I have a lot of fun with my Meg and Mike. Meg and Mike. And then we fly to wherever we're going. Meg and Mike in Kenya. Woo! Okay, so by now you should be at about 2 minutes into the class, and this brings you to the hello song. The way that I like to do the hello slide is to go through each lyric with the student one at a time, and then we sing the song together. So this should put you at about 3 minutes to 3.5 minutes. Next up is the reward slide. I let the students do whatever they want with this. I never use it as an actual reward, but it is a great opportunity for them to practice their computer skills, dragging and dropping, and you can use some of the prior vocabulary that they've used up to this point on the reward slide. I try not to get too detailed about whatever's going on there, but it's a great time to repeat the country name or anything that they've learned so far. And I always play around with the reward slide until about 4.5 to 5 minutes into the class. And I also give them their first star. The next section is the section that I spend the most amount of time on, usually between 5 and 7 minutes. Depending on which lesson within the unit you're on, there's a different theme. So lesson 1 is always daily life. Lesson 2 is let's play, where the students learn a game, some kind of game associated with the country that they're in. Lesson 3 is food. Lesson 5 is culture. Lesson 6 is action. And lesson 7 is science. They usually learn about a different animal. And then lessons 4 and 8 are the checkpoint and assessment. One thing I have noticed is that the lesson 6 action tends to run a little bit faster during the theme learning. So you can use some extension here, either within this section or in a later section to make up for that time. There are usually also a couple of review slides to start everything out, so you can spend about a minute to a minute and a half reviewing the previous material before you jump into the new material. By now, I'm usually about 12 minutes into the class. I usually land at the unit song between 10 and 12 minutes. The way that I do the unit song is the exact same way I do the hello song, where I go through some of the lyrics or all of the lyrics depending on how quickly the child is picking it up, and then we sing through it together. I always try to end the unit song at around 15 minutes. Following the unit song, this is the perfect time for you to gauge whether you think you need to slow down and add some extension or pick up the pace so that you can end right at the 25-minute mark. In the later units, they start to learn letters and phonic sounds. In Unit 1, the rest of the lesson is sounds and drawing on the slide. So extension can include teaching them the names of the sounds that they're making. So instead of woof, 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 you teach them dog, and you can teach them different shapes that they can draw on the slide. When these students are learning letters, I usually spend about 2 minutes on this section. And they usually have something that you can drag and drop in order to trace the letters, but I always try to encourage them to draw the letters independently as well. Following the letters, there is the ABC slide. I usually hit this between 16 and 17 minutes, and I just let the students sing their version of the ABCs. I've never had a student not be able to stumble through the ABCs somehow, some way, but I do not focus on correction. It would take way too much time, and it's a fool's errand. Don't do it. Teach them the letters individually, and the corrections will come with time. By now, I am usually right around 17 minutes into the class, and this brings us to the phoneme section, where the students learn different sounds and words associated with those sounds. I spent about 3 to 4 minutes on this section, which should bring you to around 21 minutes into the class. After the phoneme section, there is the soft skills section, which varies depending on which unit you're in. Sometimes it's completing a pattern, sometimes it's finding differences between two pictures, and I usually give the students about a minute to a minute and a half to play around with this slide. The next two slides provide the perfect opportunity to either add extension if you have extra time, or speed up the lesson if you are running low on time. They are the wrap up and extra slide. I love these slides. I use them in every lesson I teach. Some teachers fly right past them. Some teachers skip them altogether. I think that they are a perfect opportunity to review what they have just learned. Depending on the student's level, I will either have them just repeat what's on the slide, or I will say a word and have them circle, or I will circle and have them say what it is. And that's the same for the wrap up and the extra slide. The extra slide does have the audio clips, which sometimes I use, sometimes I skip it. If you are at between 23 and a half and 24 minutes, skip right over that blank slide and go right to the goodbye song. If you are at around maybe 22, 23 minutes hopefully, you can use the blank slide for them to practice letters or practice drawing shapes if they're in an earlier unit. Okay, hopefully at this point you are right where you need to be, right around 24 minutes, and that brings us to the goodbye song slide. I do the exact same thing I did with the previous two songs, briefly run through the lyrics with the student, and then we sing it together. And then don't forget to finish your homework, and I will see you next time. And then that usually lands me right at 25 minutes. Goodbye, goodbye mom, thank you, and see you later. So that's it. That's how I pace out all of my level 1 classes to be exactly 25 minutes. Now this is different than the checkpoints and assessments, which I will make a separate video for. But hopefully this is helpful. If you are still having trouble pacing out your level 1 classes and you need extra help, don't hesitate to send me a message or comment below. Other than that, I hope this is helpful and happy teaching everyone.